Thank you for joining us at the Global Donor Platform for Rural Development. I'm Michelle Tang, Communications Officer at the Platform Secretariat.
I'm Lisa Saga, intern at the Platform Secretariat and focal point of the Thematic Working Groups.
We're here today with the Chair and the Vice Chair of the Global Donor Working Group on Land, Chair Karol from USAID, and Vice Chair Gemma from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. Welcome to you both. Why are land governance issues also important for the donor community from a rural development perspective?
I would say that how land is allocated, used, managed, governed, this is at the very heart of rural development challenges, and it's at the heart of rural development solutions. So it's not just important, it's essential that donors see land governance as a fundamental cross-cutting issue that supports multiple global agendas that touch on rural areas and rural development. And this includes everything from poverty eradication to sustainable food systems, to efforts to limit deforestation and greenhouse gas emissions, to women and youth empowerment, and I could go on. For most rural people, land is the most important social, cultural, and economic asset that they hold, and yet for so many rural women and men, this foundation is not secure. They worry that they're going to be displaced, that they'll lose land rights to more powerful actors, that they'll lose their livelihoods as well as access to cultural heritage sites, and importantly, that they will lose their social safety, the social safety benefits that land provides to them, their families, and their communities.
So in 2021, the platform itself focused on food systems transformations. So our question is, how do you frame the work of the Thematic Working Group in the context of the global food systems agenda?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Lisa. And the group has engaged in the discussions around the global food systems agenda by discussing the centrality of land in food systems. So we focused on land governance, not as a separate issue to be addressed, but really as a cross-cutting theme through all different types of topics that were addressed by the food systems agenda. In some thematic areas that, the Food Systems Summit focused on, such as smallholder producers, land governance was a rather, kind of obvious piece of the puzzle. But in other thematic areas, for example, the link with nutrition, this relationship was somewhat less known. However, we do know that improved women's land rights are very fundamental to improved household food security, adequate consumption becomes steadier, diets become more diverse, for example.
I think the only other thing I would add is that part of what this group has done over the last decade is also really focus on supporting efforts related to responsible land-based investment and how it is that agribusiness investors can engage productively and in a more equitable manner with producers in their food supply chains.
What do you think the group has had the most impact in terms of its work? What is the group's potential in strengthening coordination amongst donors on land governance issues?
I'd have to say that I think working collaboratively over many years now to advocate for the inclusion of land-related indicators in the very large group of SDG indicators is an extremely important contribution. And I think this work has been important for a couple of reasons. So first, I do think this collaborative engagement around land-related indicators raised attention to the role that land plays in SDG 1, eradicating poverty, in eliminating hunger, and ensuring gender equality. And those are just 3 of the SDG goals that touch on land. So I think, it became pretty clear through this work that land is actually a critical, we keep saying this, but it's true, a critical cross-cutting issue for development objectives. I think the next thing it did is it helped identify and frame the actual questions that were needed to track progress for women and men living in very different contexts, rural and urban. So getting agreement around the kinds of questions and how to frame those questions was important. It helped us identify what comparable and high quality data was available globally or was missing. And it also encouraged a number of innovative and interestingly community-driven approaches to data collection that can complement work that will go on and continue to go on at national statistical agencies.
Great. So looking back at 2021, what have been the group's key highlights and main achievements in the past year?
I think one of the most, one of the things that we worked on the most in the past year has actually been the Global Food Systems Agenda. The SDGs is an ongoing thing that we're working on. What we've started doing this year a little bit, and we're hoping to expand this work over the next couple of years, is to also work a little bit more on promoting country level coordination and collaboration within the group. But we do see the importance of the improved coordination also at country level. Working in close alignment can make sure that we're also taking up lessons learned by others in the same context. We're not reinventing the wheel in countries. If you have a successful pilot done somewhere, other donors may step in to scale up these proven successes. And this can also really improve the overall efficiency and effectiveness of our work, trying to see how we can bring together better the data that we have as a donor community to see who is doing what and where. So we're trying to compile that in a land governance program map and trying to see how we can make sure that this type of information is transparent, is updated, so that it becomes easier for partners involved to join efforts and to coordinate and collaborate in those countries.
I would say also launching the revised and refreshed website is a highlight for me for this year. I'm hoping that this website is going to help introduce more people to the work that the group does and get more people interested in and excited about land governance and tenure security.
Looking ahead to 2022, to this current year, what are the key priorities for the group? And what is your vision for its future, both in the long term and in the short term?
I would say in the short term, I see two really important opportunities to pause and reflect. First, of course, first, I'll point out that this year we're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the unanimous endorsement of the voluntary guidelines on responsible governance of tenure. And so this is a wonderful time to stop and consider what's been achieved, but also to think about what's the work we still have left to do, and really think hard about goals for the next 10 years when it comes to responsible governance of tenure and supporting equitable outcomes related to land governance. In the longer term, though, I think this group has an absolutely really important role to play in tracking progress against global and national commitments around equitable land rights and secure tenure. And we have an enormous opportunity to build on the good work that we've done over the last decade, promoting equitable and inclusive land governance, right? So that more people, more communities are able to protect and benefit from the land they rely on. There's still an enormous amount to do to close the implementation gap around land rights, to address discriminatory social norms, and to support the equal rights of women, youth, Indigenous peoples, migrants, and others to access, use, and benefit from land. But I think that this group, which has such strong support from the Secretariat and the Global Donor Rural Platform, we do have an opportunity to come together. We have the support to come together. And I think working collaboratively at both the national level, like Gemma said, and at the global level on these advocacy issues can help really move the needle forward for another 10 years of good progress on good land governance.